Hello, everybody. I wanted to start this lesson by showing you this crazy plant that I have. It's a frizzle sizzle. When I got it, I'll show a picture later. I'll put it in. It was only like this. See the tiny little frizzle? It was only like a tiny little frizzle, and now it's this gigantic. So that's how I want to start class today. Just a low-key brag about frizzle sizzle. How cool it is. All right. So anyway, on topic. We're talking about digestive systems and anatomy. The lesson's a little different now than what it was in class. So I'm going to do what I kept doing before. I'm going to try to watch the time and make this less than a half an hour. I'm going to go through it quick. But I wanted to give you an idea of what we were looking at if you were to complete the lab in lab. So this would be the PowerPoint presentation I would have given, and then you would have actually broken into groups and did your own separate animal and then presented it to each other, the digestive systems of those animals. So I have, it's probably like this, and I still have this, by the way, too. Always my hand, close by my hand. And I have actually pictures of all the different digestive systems of the animals you would have done in class. So you'll still be able to get a chance to see that. These are the objectives for if we were in class, because clearly you're not doing dissections. If you're interested in dissections and you want to learn more about different animals and different structures of animals and things, just let me know. I have YouTube videos. I have pictures from when I took animal biology and we dissected a cat. They come euthanized from a shelter, like natural causes. I would never euthanize. No, I don't eat meat or anything. I would never just like take a cat off the street and I just dissect it. But we would do basically from like the skin to the bone. So I have a pretty good understanding about anatomy of animals and different animals. So if anybody's interested, just let me know. First, we've talked about this before in one of your lectures, the difference between protostome and deuterostome. Basically, the protostome, the mouth forms first. That was the first in our line evolutionary-wise. We first developed as protostomes, and as we developed and became more advanced, we became deuterostomes. So you see the branch in the ancestors, and we're going to talk about all deuterostomes today. A little quick on the echinoderms, but mostly about chordates, because that's what we're talking about, everything in the mammalian category and others that have a spinal cord. And if you like the little fun fact on the side, put that in there for you. I'm not going to read it out loud. I'm at work. I had to bring my tree from outside my house to work too, so get some foliage in the background. Cladogram of the deuterostomes. So basically we're going to be looking at everything up from deuterostome today. So I'm going to touch, I said, quickly on the echinoderms, and then everything. I have pictures of dissections because the focus of this is on the evolutionary of the digestive system and how it becomes more advanced as you move up evolutionary wise based on the food that we eat and what we consume. So we're going to look at that here coming up. So echinoderms, like I said, just quick, the video up there is of a sea sponge. I'm not going to play it now because I want to get this done in less than a half an hour so that you can come and meet me in the Zoom meeting at 4. If you're watching this at 3:30, like you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, I'll try to do it quick. So I'm not going to play the video, but you can watch that on your own. I'll post the link on Blackboard so you don't have to, and this PowerPoint will also be posted on Blackboard. And there's a separate PowerPoint for lecture later, so I'll post both of them. But these are basically your sea stars, your sea urchins, the cucumbers. They have no blood. Their vascular system is made out of water, which is really interesting. They do have an exoskeleton, an endoskeleton, so they do have skeletal parts inside of them that hold their structure together. And what's interesting, as most of you know with starfish, when you cut a piece off, they can actually regenerate their lost parts. Aliens. Which I find really interesting, especially sea cucumbers, how something of such basic anatomy can be also so advanced at the same time. Just very interesting. Of course, my mom. Should I answer my phone call from my mom? No. I'm teaching. Let's see, even us professors, we still get phone calls from our moms constantly, every day. All right, so now the main focus of all this, we're going to talk about chordata. So we have our jawless fish, cartilage fish, bony fish. This is as we're moving up evolutionary wise. Amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. So chordata is basically all these traits. Yes, even us. We had pharyngeal gill slits when we're in the embryo. What's interesting about the pharyngeal gill slits is like we don't lose them. They just develop into something else. And you would think, since we evolved from jawless fish and moved up evolutionary wise, that those gill slits, since they aid in, you know, breathing and oxygen transfer and things like that in aquatic animals and some amphibians, that we would have some kind of evolutionary advantage to that, but literally they do nothing for us other than provide structure to our body. So it's weird. So like the gill slits split as we're developing in the embryo between parts of our brain, our inner eardrums, parts of our jaw and our jaw muscles, and then actually parts of our thyroid and our parathyroid. So they don't do it. There's no chemical structure or any kind of anything like that. They're just literally just parts broken up into other parts. So if only we developed to be able to breathe underwater, I don't even know how much more we would destroy the planet if we could take over the ocean more than we already do. But so this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about our group chordata. And yes, we all have an anal tail also. If you've ever hurt your tailbone, you know it's there. That's an injury all on its own. You feel like you can't sit, you can't stand, you can't do anything. If you've ever bruised your tailbone, I don't wish that upon anybody. Oh, where did it go? All right, so our first group, I always describe these as these. So lampreys and hagfish, which we will have a picture of dissection for you. I have that later in the PowerPoint. This is our first group. This is our jawless fish. So basically they consume their nutrients by sucking, latching and sucking. Yeah, so they feed a lot. They're parasitic and on blood and protein and different parts of the exterior of other fish, and completely carnivores, 100%. They don't eat plant matter. They can't chew it. And that's one of the main things to get nutrients out of plants is you have to chew it and break it apart. So they just latch and suck. They're weird, these guys. They're eel-like. They're our first group. They're the first to branch off into the diaterostomes. So remember, that means the anus formed first instead of the mouth, which makes them in the same group as us. They're our ancestors. That's our ancestor. That's our cuz right there. Cartilage fish is our next group. So these you would think would be a little bit more advanced because they are so large and they seem so advanced and when we're thinking about them in structure, especially sharks, but they're not. They're next in our group. They have no bones, no hard bones. They're completely made of cartilage. You can see it in the picture when I show you later of the dissection. This is always the favorite. When I pull the names out of the hat for which group wants to dissect what, everybody goes and is like, it's the shark, but it's actually really boring because there's really nothing to them. Yeah, rays, we know, Steve Irwin, rest in peace. Rays have the hardest part on them is their little spine of cartilage is what killed Steve Irwin. It's their little defense mechanism. And then sawfish, which are crazy. They're definitely living dinosaurs. They're wild looking. Next in our group are our bony fish. So this makes up two separate groups. Our ray fin fish, which is like 99%. That's like all the fish we know. I have a little visual later that shows the groups of them, so I'm not going to go into it here. And then our lobe fin fish, which is just that 1%. And I put Animal Crossing, I had to. They are our longest ancestors. So they are the oldest of the bony fish and the first that evolved into our land vertebrates, our amphibians. So they're the first to somehow magically grow legs and develop breathing mechanisms that could take them out of the water. But from those lobefin fish, 99% of the ray fin fish that we see today developed from our previous group, our cartilage fish, into ray finned. But they're composed mostly of bone, almost completely bone, except their skin. If you've ever, fished and cleaned a fish, it's tough business getting rid of all those little tiny bones. We didn't dissect a bony fish in class. It was a little too difficult. So I do not have that in our dissections. And then finally, we come to our tetrapods. So this is any 4-footed animal. Yes, you consider us a tetrapod, like we have our hands and our feet. We're bipedal, meaning that we walk on 2 legs, but still are in this group of tetrapod because we do have arms and legs, just like that weird little salamander guy you got there. He's got arms and legs. The only exceptions really is snake. There's another lizard that doesn't have legs. It's a legless lizard, but they're still considered tetrapods because they have all of these other characteristics. They're bilateral, so that means if you cut them in half, equal on both sides, not unlike sponges, and starfish were radial. Deuterostomes, so we formed our anus first instead of our mouth. Chordata, so we have a spinal cord. Vertebrate, we have a nervous system coming from our spinal cord. We're jawed and we're bony. So all these characteristics, so basically everything beyond our fish ancestors that we see here come into this tetrapod category. So as soon as we moved onto land, we became tetrapods. All right, so here's a little graphic. I tried to find easier ones. I have a little more simplistic. It gets really, really complicated, so I wasn't going to throw that up in this PowerPoint of how we evolved from one step to the next, but this is giving you an idea of how our ancestors were cartilage fish, to the ray fish, to the lobefin fish, then finally the tetrapods, and how we branched out of each group of tetrapods to become humans from fish, which is crazy if you think about it in retrospect. And then, like I said, this one's a little bit more simplistic. So you start with your lampreys. It's a little hard to read. So it says jawless fish, or lampreys. And then this gives you a little bit more of an idea of your ray fin fish. So like tuna, salmon, catfish, eels, gars, sturgeons. Those are the most common names that you know. Sharks branched off separate. So they were cartilage fish. And then us, the lungfish, to the amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. So it's really interesting how just little changes when we talked about Hardy-Weinberg and the different things that cause evolutionary change, how just like one little trait change turned us from a fish into a person. And we still have gills, just in weird places now. The main categoristic, oh my gosh, if you're with me on my walk, when we went through the Pine Barrens, if you came to my in-person class, categoristic, I still can't say it. Categoristic. Oh, my roommate was making fun of me so bad because I can't. All right, so one of the main categories, it's that word, I'm broken, is that we cannot produce our own food. So we need to get our nutrition from outside sources. Only coffee, it's too early. We have to get our food from outside sources. So the nutrition needs to be derived from either plants, animals, nuts, seeds, different things of that nature. And depending on what our food source is and the nutrients that we need for our body size, our type, the diet we need, what organs are needed, what organs we have compared to like a lamprey, compared to like a rabbit, really shows the advancement of our organ systems and our digestive systems. So that's what this lab focused on was, we started off with the lamprey, and as I moved up, like I did in the groups that I showed you, we looked at the diet, and I'll talk a little bit about each one. Check time. Talk about the diet and evolutionary wise, why the digestive tracts look the way they do. Our digestive system is a 5-part process. So you think that digestion starts in your stomach. It does not. Digestion starts literally the second you put any kind of food into your mouth. The saliva and the chewing is the first part of the process, your ingestion. the propulsion down into your stomach. There's two parts of digestion. So we have mechanical, so it's your muscles contracting and everything moving around. And then you have your chemical digestion, which is enzymes and acids breaking everything down, which moves, bless you, which moves to absorption. All the nutrients move to from outside of the stomach into your blood system. So when we're talking after absorption to defecation, that's literally just feces. Some people think that urine is a part of defecation. It's not. When the nutrients move outside of the stomach to the blood, it actually pushes liquids to your kidneys, and your kidneys pass your urine. So urine is not a part of the digestive system, only passing defecation for passing food matter. And then also with nutrition and absorption, the liver, do I have in the next part? Yeah. The liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, and the kidneys all play a part in aiding in digestion. So they're part of our digestive system, even though we consider them, when we're talking about our body systems, just organs, they are part of the digestive system organ structure. So that's why if we were in class dissecting, I would have you find the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, and I try to find the best pictures that I could where these were labeled on the pictures. So, but from start to finish, this is what our digestive system is as a whole. All right, so this would have been your presentations. This is one of my favorite labs to do. So I'm like, you could live vicariously through my slides. If you are a little queasy, the next slides might make you a little queasy. It's not so bad though. Better than in person, it smells, because the formaldehyde to preserve the animals. So I picked the ones that we would do in class. So first we would do the lamprey, which is this guy. Just to look at how basic their digestive system is. So basically they have a mouth, it moves down the digestive system. You'll see here we have our gallbladder, our liver, the esophagus is actually right here. So their mouth, doesn't even have it on here, is not where you would think. It's like right here where they have it's not on the top, it's on the bottom, because they latch on and they suck. But then it moves down the esophagus, the gallbladder, the liver filters out any kind of toxins, moves down the intestine, comes out the anus. And this is the simplest one. Interesting parts, you can see the liver here, it looks kind of gross. So this is the actual dissection. I tried to find the best. It's a female, there's its ovaries, little tiny kidney, the notochord and the spinal cord there. And then there's where its gill slits are. A little interesting. And there's the gills. Next we have the frog, which I did when I was in like 7th grade. I don't know if it's still commonly done in schools unless you take like an upper level science class. I don't know if it's like mandatory to do it in lower science classes. I feel like parents these days don't want kids doing stuff like this because I don't know, but it is what it is. It's life. Literally, it's life. And it's really interesting to see the makeup of these things. So if you did the frog, kudos. Probably don't remember. I didn't remember until I did it again when I was in college. So if you take anatomy, A&P 1 and 2, if you're going for like nursing or medical or anything, you get to dissect, pretty sure, a lot of different things. So if you're on that track, you get to do it. And like I offered up in the past, if anybody wants to come when we start teaching in person again, and you see that I'm teaching B&E or even cells and molecules, if you wanted to come to one of my classes, just reach out and email me. If you wanted to come sit in and watch this class, like absolutely 100%, I would let you work with the students that I have too, if you wanted to dissect something. And if you really wanted the shark, like, you guys get dibs. You would get dibs on the sharks. But with the frog, a little bit more advanced. They're eating mostly carnivores. They eat a lot of insects, small fish. There is some plant matter, of course, that they ingest, so they will have to be able to pass it. So that's why they have a little bit longer, you see, of an intestinal tract, because they need to work a little bit harder to absorb those nutrients. They have a double-lobed liver, which is really interesting. And there's their tiny little stomach. And then their mouth here goes down their esophagus there. That's our little frog. The shark that everybody loves to do, I told you, it's like, eh. When you open it up, you're like, oh, that's it. They have a really, really, really small stomach. This is because most of their food gets passed. You gotta think, sharks eat fish, a lot of bones, not any plant matter, nothing like that they need to like really take the time to like break down the cellulose to get the nutrients out of it. What they eat is like pure protein, in and out. That's all they need. Their teeth do a really good job of tearing the pieces off that they need. Their small intestine you see here is small. That's it. It's not folded. It's nothing. It's just sitting right there. That's the size of it. Their stomach is a little bit larger than what we saw before. Their liver takes up the majority of their body because they do have to break down a lot of toxins when they are doing their digestion. And then their colon to their anus is actually one of the largest of the animals because they do pass large because they have to pass bones and things like that. Our bird, I think, is the most interesting just because they have structures that no other animals have. We did, when I took entomology with Dr. Hernandez, yes, if you could take, not entomology, ornithology. I'm an entomologist. I do bugs. Entomology is insects, which you'll take with Dr. Shack if you take entomology. And that's a really interesting course. That's what I do. But ornithology I took with Dr. Hernandez, and it was awesome. Our lab is going to the bird sanctuary and watching birds and writing it in a notebook. And there was one lab where we dissected a pigeon. So if you wanted to take that as one of your 300, 400 level, upper level bio classes, I definitely recommend that class. It was a good one. But birds are just interesting. They have this structure here called the crop. If you ever see pigeons eating like gravel and dirt, it's actually to add, and if you have pet birds too, you have to sometimes put gravel into their food. It depends what kind of bird it is. But that sits in the crop, which is just at the top of the stomach, like the digestive part of them, right after the esophagus, because the rock and the gravel actually helps break down the seeds, because we don't want to eat the outside of the seed. We want what's inside of the seed. And that's another reason why they have a longer intestinal tract, because they need to be able to break down the seeds through that chemical process in order to get the nutrients from inside the seed that they need. Also, the gizzard is a little, no other animal has a gizzard. Yeah, so that's the bird. I don't want to take too long because there's two more. So the rat now you see is a little bit more advanced. So rats are omnivores and they're opportunistic feeders. So they'll really eat anything that they can get in their mouth. Pizza rat for president 2020 was a thing that came up in my newsfeed. But yeah, so like pizza rat, eating pizza. Yeah, they're opportunistic. They'll pretty much eat anything. If they're, rats in the wild, they'll feed off of freshly decaying. They won't, not like a vulture eating like a dead deer that's been on the side of the road forever, but freshly decaying matter. They'd eat seeds, nuts, other animals, poop, whatever they can get. So they have a little bit more advanced of a digestive system. As you can see, if you were to stretch that out, it would be decently long. We measured them. You're going to get to measure some things when we actually do the lab later. So this one was our second longest, which leads to our longest, which is the rabbit. And I actually found a picture of it all laid out, which is really cool. Rabbits are omnivores, or not omnivores, sorry. Rabbits are herbivores. So they eat only plant matter. And that's the reason why their intestinal system is so long, is because they have to be able to take the time to break down the cellulose to get the most amount of nutrients as they can out of the matter that they eat. It's long. Like the square lab tables that we have in the lab, when we took it out, it was like up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, like almost the whole table. Yeah, we laid down stuff and we laid it out. So it's really interesting to see. And then, you know, closer to our anatomy, a smaller kidney, smaller spleen, you know, the liver above the stomach, most like us, definitely, but one of our closest in digestive anatomy, even compared to the rat, because of their opportunistic nature. They have to have, you know, a larger liver, larger spleen to be able to break down toxins, while the rabbit, they eat more healthy, natural things like us humans try to do instead of cheeseburgers. And then I just put us, the humans. We'll talk more about later. We're comparing our intestines to our brain size and how evolutionary wise that has changed. So I hope you enjoyed some gore and guts, as this lab is partially named for you. And I will see you almost perfectly half an hour. I will see you at 4. All right. Now I have to figure out how to stop recording. What else is new, right? All right. Goodbye, everybody.